Healing the child within. What Carl Jung would tell you today. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Carl Jung. What if the part of you you've spent a lifetime avoiding is the part that holds the key to your healing? In this video, we're not just exploring theory. We're unlocking the emotional truth behind Jung's most powerful wisdom and what he would whisper to the child still living inside you. Healing isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about remembering what was forgotten, your worth, your innocence, your light. At Spiritual Wisdom, we invite you to pause, reflect, and begin this journey inward. As you watch, I encourage you to comment below. What would you say to your younger self today? Your story may be the light someone else needs to find their way home. 1. You are not lazy or broken. You're carrying unprocessed childhood pain. What looks like procrastination, emotional instability, or low self-worth is not a defect in your character. It is the residue of pain your soul was never allowed to express. As boys, many of us were not taught to thrive. We were taught to survive. We adapted, silently, by learning to suppress emotions, to keep our fears to ourselves, to harden our outer shell while our inner world remained tender and bruised. These patterns that follow you into adulthood, the hesitation to act, the fear of being seen, the tendency to self-sabotage are not signs of weakness. They are echoes of a childhood where your soul had to make impossible choices just to stay safe. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And so many men are walking through life thinking they're lazy, unmotivated, or broken, when in truth, they are carrying unresolved emotional burdens they were never given permission to unpack. Beneath the surface, you may feel like you're constantly bracing yourself, even in moments of peace. That's not failure. That's your nervous system remembering what it felt like to be unprotected, unheard, and unseen. And because no one ever taught you how to return to yourself, you learn to stay away from your own soul. When you feel like you're living a double life, functional on the outside, disconnected inside, that is the result of a protective architecture your inner child built out of necessity. You were praised for being strong, for not crying, for handling it, but no one asked what it cost your soul. And now, when you struggle to be consistent, to feel passion, or to truly trust love, it's not because you're incapable. It's because your soul still believes it's not safe to be fully alive. Healing begins when we stop judging those parts of ourselves and begin honoring them as survival wisdom. The child within you never disappeared. He just went quiet. Jung described this as the child archetype, a timeless symbol of renewal, innocence, and truth. That boy still lives in you, the one who was sensitive, curious, honest, full of wonder before the world asked him to toughen up. And that child is not your weakness. He is your soul's untouched truth. Reconnecting with him doesn't make you less of a man. It makes you whole. When you give yourself permission to feel what was once forbidden, you don't fall apart. You finally come together. This inner return is what Jung called individuation, the sacred process of uniting all parts of the self, both shadow and light, into one authentic being. You don't become someone new. You remember who you were before the world told you who to be. You reclaim your voice, your softness, your depth. You begin to live in alignment with your soul, rather than in reaction to your past. And suddenly, the burden, becomes a gift. The wound becomes a doorway. And the pain that once haunted you becomes the source of your strength, your wisdom, and your presence. Healing doesn't mean fixing something that's broken. It means releasing the story that you were ever broken to begin with. The soul doesn't need to be saved. It needs to be seen. And once you see it, once you turn toward the boy within you with love, respect, and understanding, you won't need to chase worth. You'll walk in it. You'll speak from it. You'll lead from it. Because now, you're not running from your story. You are standing inside it, whole and awake. Have you ever looked at your struggles and realized they might not be your fault? If today's message helped you see your laziness or self-doubt in a new light as echoes of unhealed childhood pain, then take a moment to reflect. If this spoke to your heart, comment below. I'm ready to heal the child within. And if you're just beginning this journey, simply write, I will begin, so we can support each other along the way. 2. The inner child is real and still alive within you. The inner child is not a metaphor. It is a living presence within your psyche, carrying the raw impressions of your earliest experiences, the joy of being held, the fear of being ignored, the sting of rejection, the ache of abandonment. Carl Jung once said that the child is both our beginning and our potential future, because it holds the blueprint of the soul before it was shaped by the world. That child still lives in your reactions, in the way your voice shakes when you ask for what you need, in the way your chest tightens when someone pulls away. You are not overreacting. You are reliving. You're not broken. You're remembering. Beneath your adult self is a tender part of you that was never allowed to feel safe, to feel chosen, to feel enough. And until you turn toward that part, your past will keep echoing in your present, no matter how much you accomplish or how hard you try to move on. A man once told me that every time his partner took too long to text back, he felt panic, not annoyance, but a full-body sense of dread. Rationally, he knew there was no danger, but emotionally, he was back at age 6, sitting alone at school pickup, watching the other kids disappear one by one. That boy never got the explanation, the comfort, or the repair. And now, decades later, he was still waiting not for a text, but for proof that he mattered. This is how unhealed wounds show up as anxiety, as conflict, as self-sabotage. Your inner child is not weak or immature. It is simply the keeper of unmet needs. It learned early that survival meant silence, that love had to be earned, that softness was unsafe. So when life asks you to be open, consistent, or joyful, you might resist, not because you don't want it, but because part of you still doesn't feel safe enough to receive it. Carl Jung taught that what we do not bring into consciousness will rule our lives, and we will call it fate. The patterns that frustrate you, the emotional reactions you don't understand, they are not flaws. They are clues. Every fear, every trigger, every shutdown is the voice of your younger self asking, are we safe now? Are we loved now? Will it be different this time? Healing is not about going back and changing the story. It's about becoming the person that child needed. Someone who doesn't shame your softness. Someone who doesn't abandon you when you're scared. Someone who listens deeply and responds with love. You don't need to analyze every memory you need to respond to what still hurts. And that begins by slowing down, by noticing, by staying present with your pain instead of judging it. That's how you create the safety your younger self never had. Your soul doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be honest, gentle, and available. The healing begins the moment you stop seeing your wounds as inconveniences and start honoring them as maps. The child in you is still waiting not for a parent, but for you. And when you finally sit beside them, not to fix them, but to feel with them, you reclaim a power that no external success can ever offer. The power to be whole. Let the lesson be this: you don't outgrow your inner child. You grow by returning to them. Do you feel your inner child stirring within you? If so, comment with truth. I still carry the child within me. Let's honor that part of us together. 3. Your adult reactions are often the child's defense mechanisms. Triggers like rejection, abandonment, or harsh criticism are not just random emotional flares. They are echoes of a deeper wound, a spiritual imprint left by the child you once were. When you overreact, avoid conflict, people please, or become hyper-independent, you are not being dramatic or broken. You are protecting yourself in the only way you once knew how. That anxious rush when someone raises their voice, it's not about the moment, it's your nervous system remembering when you weren't safe to speak. That need to be perfect? It's the child in you trying to earn love through achievement, hoping to never be a burden. These are not personality flaws. They are the spiritual scars of survival strategies built in silence and fear. As Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And the truth is, most people are living out their fate, not because they want to, but because they've never stopped to question the child who's still calling the shots. You carry within you layers of spiritual memory that don't age with the body. They stay frozen in time, waiting to be witnessed. That 5-year-old who learned to shrink themselves to avoid punishment still shows up today whenever you second-guess your worth. That 10-year-old who was told to be strong instead of being comforted still numbs every vulnerable emotion. We wear masks called adulthood, but they're stitched together by childhood beliefs. The spiritual journey is not about escaping the past. It's about reclaiming the parts of you that were left behind. Not to dwell there, but to rescue the child who never felt safe to be themselves. Healing begins when you stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What happened to me?" That's when compassion flows in. That's when your soul speaks louder than your fear. And it's in this sacred return to your inner child that you begin to understand what real strength looks like. It's not in hiding emotions. It's in holding them gently. It's not in being unaffected. It's in being deeply present with your pain. Spiritual healing isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet, subtle, and often unseen by others. It's the decision to stay with yourself when every part of you wants to run. It's choosing to soothe the inner child instead of shaming them. You start to speak to yourself differently. You're safe now. You don't have to earn love anymore. You're allowed to rest. And every time you speak these words, your soul begins to believe them. There's a reason ancient wisdom tells us the wound is the place where the light enters you. That light is not outside of you. It's the awareness that you are no longer a powerless child. You are the healer now. A man may go through life constantly proving himself, burning out just to feel worthy, never knowing he's trying to impress the absent father in his memory. A woman may give and give in relationships, losing herself each time because she's still trying to earn the love her younger self never received. And it is not until they pause and turn inward to truly look at the child within that they begin to set themselves free. This is the spiritual work beneath all self-help. This is where transformation begins, not in performance, but in presence. And if you can be brave enough to meet the part of you that still trembles, that still grieves, that still waits, you will become something powerful. Not because you fixed yourself, but because you finally listened. If this message speaks to something deep inside you, say it aloud with faith. These patterns once protected me, but they no longer define me. I am healing. I am free. 4. Trauma isn't always what happened. It's what didn't happen. Trauma isn't always loud or violent. It's often invisible, silent, and woven into the fabric of your everyday life. It's not just about what happened to you, but what didn't happen. It's the absence of emotional safety, the lack of tenderness, the void where consistency should have been. When you were a boy, maybe no one told you it was okay to cry, to be unsure, to need. Maybe no one showed up when you were scared, or held you in when the world felt too big. And so, you grew strong on the outside, while your soul quietly adapted, hiding its ache beneath a hardened shell. Now, as a man, you may find yourself driven but disconnected, accomplished but numb, reliable but resentful. You function, you provide, you protect, but inside, something still feels off. That something is the child within you, still waiting for safety, still waiting to be chosen, still waiting to be seen. Carl Jung once said, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parent." That burden often shows up in your adult life as a gnawing emptiness, a sense that no matter how much you do, it's never enough. You may not remember every wound, but your body does. The way you flinch at intimacy, the way you push through exhaustion, the way you silence your feelings to be the man. These are symptoms of survival, not personality flaws. You were trained to endure, not to feel safe. You were shaped to be useful, not emotionally present. So when love feels suffocating, or being seen feels threatening, it's not because you're broken, it's because your soul never learned that safety was allowed. The child in you isn't weak, he's wounded, and he's not asking you to become someone else. He's asking you to come back, not to dwell in pain, but to reclaim what was lost in silence. Jung believed the soul must integrate the wounded child, not exile him. That means looking at the parts of you that still feel unworthy, that still flinch when someone gets too close, that still shut down when life asks too much. These parts aren't flaws, they're doorways to healing. They speak the language of unmet needs. And you don't need to recall every painful detail to begin, because the pain is already here, showing up in how you love, how you lead, how you escape. The healing begins when you stop running from it, when you make space to listen without shame. Your soul isn't asking for perfection, it's asking for presence. For you to stop abandoning yourself in the name of strength. For you to stop punishing yourself for what was never your fault. You are not lazy. You are not cold. You are not failing. You are carrying an emotional weight that was never meant to be yours. But now, as a man, you have the power to put it down. You have the power to choose differently. You have the power to show that child what safety feels like by no longer ignoring his voice. Healing is not a destination. It's a homecoming. And the moment you decide to listen to the soul you silence just to survive, that's when the real healing begins. If this message speaks to something you never received but always needed, you're not alone. Subscribe to spiritual wisdom and stay connected with a community that honors the silent wounds. Together, we create space for healing, validation, and growth. You are worthy of the care and safety you once lacked, and it's never too late to begin again. 5. Reparenting is the path to true healing. Reparenting is not about fixing what's broken. It's about returning to the soul with tenderness, patience, and presence. It means becoming the safe, loving adult you once longed for, but never had. As Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And so much of what drives your pain, your self-sabotage, and your fears today comes from unconscious patterns rooted in childhood wounding. When no one was there to hold space for your emotions, you learned to suppress them. When no one protected your boundaries, you learned to feel guilty for having any. Reparenting is the courageous act of reversing that silence, of finally choosing yourself. It's when you begin to speak to yourself with the same gentleness you would offer a child who's just been hurt. It's waking up and saying, "I matter," not out of ego, but out of deep remembrance that your soul was never meant to survive in fight or flight forever. In today's world, we are praised for being resilient, for pushing through pain, for pretending we're fine when we're crumbling. But reparenting asks you to stop abandoning yourself in the name of appearing strong. True strength is not found in endurance, but in softness. It's in saying no when something doesn't feel right, even if others don't understand. It's in crying without apology, resting without guilt, and celebrating boundaries as a form of sacred self-respect. A man once told me he thought healing meant becoming fearless, but what he really needed was safety to feel his feelings without shame, to not have to prove anything to anyone. That is the essence of reparenting. It's choosing to sit with your pain instead of punishing yourself for it. It's holding the hand of your inner child and saying, "I see you. I hear you. I will never leave you again." In doing this, you are not being selfish. You are becoming whole. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you choose love over judgment toward yourself, every time you allow your truth to take up space, you are rewiring the deepest parts of your nervous system. You are showing your soul that it is finally safe to be seen. And no, healing doesn't mean the past disappears. It means you become so rooted in your present self that the past no longer has the power to define your worth. You begin to walk through life less reactive, more intentional, more anchored in love. That is the unseen power of this journey. Reparenting is spiritual work. It is soul retrieval. It's not glamorous. It's often messy, but it's real. And with each choice to honor your needs, your truth, and your inner child, you reclaim your life not as a performance, but as a sacred path toward inner peace. If you're ready to become the loving, grounded adult your inner child always needed, comment below. I am ready to reparent and heal. Your healing begins with you. 6. You can end the generational cycle. You didn't create the pain, but you're the one chosen to end it. That's not just a personal choice, it's a spiritual mission. Carl Jung once said, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. And in that single sentence lives the power to break chains that have wrapped around your family for generations. You were born into a web of invisible patterns shaped by fear, scarcity, silence, and shame. Maybe love was conditional. Maybe emotion was dangerous. Maybe you learned early that your voice wasn't safe, your needs didn't matter, or your dreams were too much. But those messages didn't begin with you. They were inherited, passed through hushed looks, tired hands, and the trembling silence of those who came before you and simply didn't know how to heal. But now you know. You are no longer blind to the cycle. And that awareness, that quiet, aching, burning awareness, is the birthplace of all healing. Spiritual healing is not a grand performance. It's not about blaming your parents or dissecting every memory. It's about becoming radically conscious of what shaped you and choosing, moment by moment, to respond differently. It's noticing when your nervous system reacts with fear, and instead of running, you stay. It's catching yourself before you repeat the same harsh words you once heard and choosing gentleness. It's not needing to win every battle, because your soul has already won the war the moment you chose to be awake. Jung warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. But you are no longer mistaking trauma for destiny. You're no longer confusing survival with love. You are learning to speak the words that were never spoken to you, words like, you are safe, you are enough, you are allowed to rest. This is how cycles break, not with violence, but with vision, not with blame, but with bravery. Every time you choose awareness over autopilot, softness over shame, presence over performance, you're not just healing yourself, you're changing the entire frequency of your bloodline. You are altering the emotional DNA of future generations. That's the sacred power of your spiritual journey. And yes, it's hard. Of course it's hard. You're walking a path your ancestors could not. You're giving voice to feelings your lineage has buried. You're becoming what they prayed for in silence, even if they didn't have the words. This isn't just inner work, it's soul work. It's the quiet rebellion of loving yourself deeply in a world that taught you to hide. It's the invisible revolution of choosing peace where there was once only pain. You may never get the apology. You may never see them change. But you are changing. You are rising. And that changes everything. If you're ready to break the cycle and begin healing for future generations, subscribe for more spiritual insights on reclaiming your power and rewriting your story. 7. The inner child holds not just wounds, but power. Your inner child isn't just a fragile memory locked in the past. It is the living pulse of your soul, the source of your deepest intuition, joy, and vitality. Every time you suppress that part of yourself in the name of duty or survival, you sever connection from the part of you that knows how to feel alive. Healing doesn't begin with fixing what's broken. It begins when you finally turn inward and say, I see you. I choose you. You're safe now. These words aren't just affirmations. They are a declaration to your nervous system that it's time to stop surviving and start living. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And the truth is, the unconscious child within you, the one who never felt fully safe, heard, or loved, has been shaping your adult relationships, your confidence, and your capacity to experience peace. This child is not a weakness to overcome. He is a force to be reclaimed. His presence is your gateway back to freedom. Because the man who learns to reparent himself becomes unshakable, not because he builds higher walls, but because he holds deeper truth. The strength you seek is not in tightening your grip on life, but in softening into the parts of yourself you've been taught to ignore. That creativity you abandoned, it's not irrelevant, it's the soul's language. That sensitivity you were told to toughen up, it's the antenna through which you sense what others can't. The masculine soul is not a machine. It is a field of energy with layers of power, and some of the strongest forces are the quietest ones. Tenderness, honesty, compassion, and presence. When you ignore the child within, you become emotionally blind, chasing success without fulfillment, love without intimacy, discipline without joy. But when you return to him, when you sit with him in silence and offer the safety he never received, something miraculous happens. The soul no longer resists life. It begins to trust again. It begins to play again. And in that play, in that freedom, the man emerges not just whole, but holy. Healing your inner child is not a trend or a therapeutic trick. It is the sacred return to what is most real, most powerful, and most alive in you. It is not the absence of pain that makes a man strong, but the courage to feel it, carry it, and still walk forward with a heart wide open. That's the power Carl Jung was pointing to, not the ego's strength, but the soul's. And the moment you let the child speak, you realize that what you thought was broken was only buried, and now it's ready to rise. To honor the strength within your sensitivity, drop a comment below saying, "I reclaim my inner power." Let it be a reminder that your healing is also your awakening, and inspire others to begin their own journey home. And if this message touched something deep within you, know this: your healing doesn't begin in the future. It begins now, right here, with awareness, compassion, and the courage to listen to that quiet voice inside. Carl Jung believed that what is not made conscious will rule your life, and this is your moment to bring it into the light. If you found value in today's message, please give this video a like, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of insight on your journey to healing and transformation. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, be gentle with your inner child. 8 signs you have an extremely rare personality. In the individual is contained the whole world, Carl Jung once said, reminding us that true power lies not in conforming, but in uncovering the uniqueness within. In today's video on Spiritual Wisdom, we explore 8 rare signs that you possess an extraordinary personality, one that not only stands apart, but carries the potential to reshape the world around you. If you've ever felt like you see life differently, like your thoughts and energy don't quite match the crowd, this message might be the reflection your soul has been waiting for. As you listen, ask yourself, which of these traits have I been hiding or doubting in myself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know which sign resonated most with you. Let's journey inward together. Sign 1, emotional depth that others can't comprehend. You feel everything so deeply, it almost aches. The highs are celestial, the lows earth-shattering. And while others might label this intensity as too much, Carl Jung would call it emotional sophistication. Your emotions aren't random waves crashing in. They're intelligent, precise instruments tuned to the hidden layers of reality. While most people operate on surface logic, you navigate the world like a deep sea diver, sensing undercurrents that others can't perceive. You pick up on the slightest shift in tone, the energy behind someone's silence, the sadness beneath a smile. It's not that you're dramatic. It's that you're attuned to truths most people are too numb or distracted to notice. Jung believed that emotions are the voice of the unconscious, and when you feel something intensely, it's your psyche offering a message that transcends words. But here's the conflict. Society doesn't know what to do with this kind of depth. It prefers things tidy, controlled, predictable. So you are told to calm down, stop overreacting, toughen up. You learn to suppress the very qualities that made your soul unique. And yet, what you suppress doesn't vanish. It festers. Jung warned that what you resist persists. When you ignore or invalidate your emotions to meet someone else's comfort level, you fracture your inner world. You start to believe your emotional truth is a liability. But in reality, it's your compass, your strength, your gift. Your emotions are not just reactions, they are revelations. They expose wounds that need healing, boundaries that must be honored, and lies you've outgrown. This emotional clarity makes you rare. It means you don't just feel, you interpret, you transmute, you evolve. Most people spend their lives chasing numbness, avoiding discomfort, and calling it peace. But not you. You sit with the storm until it tells you why it came. You don't escape your emotional pain. You turn it into meaning. That is power. That is the path of the differentiated soul. Carl Jung spoke of one who is not trapped in shallow conformity, but awakened through feeling. You are not unstable. You are not overly sensitive. You are someone who has the courage to feel what most people run from. You are the emotional alchemist, turning ache into awareness, chaos into clarity. The very thing others mock in you is the thing their souls are starving for. Your emotional depth is not just valid, it's vital. And the sooner you stop apologizing for it, the sooner you step into your full strength. If this resonates with you, share your experience in the comments below so others can feel seen too. And if you're just beginning to embrace your emotional depth, comment, "I honor my feelings," to join this journey of self-acceptance and inner wisdom. Sign 2. You question everything with unrelenting curiosity. You don't just accept what you're told, you dissect it, question it, feel it, and then ask again. Not because you're difficult, but because something within you refuses to settle for half-truths. You crave something deeper, something real. While most people are satisfied with the surface, you want to know what lies beneath the mask. Carl Jung called this psychological gift the transcendent function, a bridge between what is and what could be, between the conditioned mind and the awakened one. And that's exactly what makes you spiritually rare. Your mind doesn't stop at the obvious. It stretches beyond, seeking meaning where others find comfort in ignorance. When you ask why, it's not to rebel, it's to reveal. You carry what Jung called prophetic consciousness, a kind of soul-level intelligence that sees the invisible, senses the future, and knows what others deny. That's why your questions often unsettle people. They feel exposed, not because you judge them, but because you mirror what they're not ready to confront. And still, you keep asking, not out of pride, but purpose, because your spirit knows that awakening doesn't come from silence, it comes from sacred disruption. You are spiritually encoded to sense what's misaligned, what's hidden behind the words, what's real behind the role. Even when others are speaking, you're listening with your soul, catching the subtleties they don't even know they're revealing. This makes you a spiritual detective of sorts, but also a mirror that many are afraid to face. People may have told you that you're too much, too intense, too curious, too serious, but in truth, you're just tuned to a deeper frequency. While the world praises those who conform, you've always known that truth lives outside the lines. This knowing often leads you into loneliness, but it's a sacred loneliness, the kind that prophets, visionaries, and deeply feeling souls have always known. You are not just looking for answers. You are calling lost truths home. That's not a flaw. That's a spiritual mission. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And becoming that kind of person, spiritually awake, relentlessly curious, and unapologetically intuitive, means learning to trust your questions more than others trust their answers. It means understanding that your discomfort with shallow thinking is not a weakness, but a compass pointing you toward deeper wisdom. You were never meant to fit into systems built on denial. You were meant to wake them up not with noise, but with clarity. Your thoughts are not just thoughts. They are sacred instruments of spiritual evolution. So when others misunderstand your need to go deeper, when they label your insight as intensity, remember, you were never here to play small. You were here to see clearly, ask boldly, and live truthfully, because that is what rare souls do. If questioning everything is your way of seeking deeper truth, you're not alone. Carl Jung believed this was the mark of a prophetic mind. If this resonates with you, comment below. I choose truth to affirm your path of inner clarity and courageous curiosity. Sign 3. Fierce independence, born from psychological survival. You didn't become independent because life gave you ease. You became independent because your soul had no other choice. This is not the kind of independence that comes from ego or rebellion. It's the kind that grows in silence, shaped by pain, refined by solitude, and forged through every moment you had to stand alone without falling apart. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the psychological journey of becoming whole by confronting your shadows, healing the unconscious, and integrating every fractured part of the self. And for souls like yours, this process wasn't optional, it was necessary. You didn't just choose to be strong, you had to be. Life never gave you the luxury of leaning too long on anyone. Every betrayal taught you boundaries. Every disappointment taught you clarity. Every silence taught you how to hear your own voice over the noise of the world. That's why your independence is not hard. It's sacred. It's not defensive. It's grounded. And that's why you don't seek others to complete you. You connect with them by choice, not desperation. But here's the hidden truth. This kind of wholeness confuses people. It draws in the deeply loving, the awakened, the wise, because they recognize your stillness as strength. But it also lures in the unhealed, the manipulative, the ones who subconsciously crave the calm they haven't earned. You become a mirror. To some, that reflection is inspiring. To others, it's threatening. They don't know what to do with someone who doesn't need fixing, chasing, or proving. You don't fit the mold of the wounded man or the emotionally absent one. You are present, but not dependent. Intimate, but not needy. Loving, but not available to chaos. This makes you magnetic. But it also means you must be even more discerning, because the rarest souls attract not just admiration, but also projection. And you've likely learned that not everyone drawn to your light wants to rise with you. Some only want to borrow your fire without feeding their own. That's why this rare personality is not a role you play. It's a frequency you carry. You've outgrown the games of validation and performance. You're not chasing love as a reward. You're choosing connection as a reflection of your inner state. You don't need permission to be yourself, because you've already faced the storms inside you and survived them with your integrity intact. And while others may misunderstand your stillness as aloofness or your solitude as arrogance, you know better. Your soul has been through too much to explain itself to those who haven't yet asked deeper questions. So you walk with clarity. You speak with purpose. You give from overflow, not emptiness. And in doing so, you live as proof that the most powerful men are not the loudest, but the most integrated, the most self-aware, the most sovereign. Because the rarest souls don't need to dominate to feel whole, they simply are. If this message resonates with your journey of becoming whole, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Has your independence come from survival or choice? Let us know. And stay tuned as we explore sign number 4 together. Sign 4. Intuitive awareness. That borders on psychic. You possess a sensitivity so profound it almost feels otherworldly. An intuitive awareness that borders on the psychic. You don't just read facial expressions or body language like others do. You feel the unspoken, the repressed, the hidden vibrations of those around you. When you enter a room, your soul picks up on emotional tension, inner conflict, and silent despair before a single word is spoken. This isn't imagination, it's perception. Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychologist, recognized intuition as one of the 4 fundamental psychological functions. He believed that some people are born with an extraordinary ability to perceive patterns, truths, and emotional realities beneath the surface of everyday interactions. If this is you, you've likely spent your life sensing things others can't explain, feeling when someone's smile is a mask, or when a quiet voice carries the weight of unspoken trauma. But with this gift comes a shadow. Without strong psychological boundaries, your intuition becomes a double-edged sword. You begin absorbing pain that isn't yours. You attract people who want healing, but aren't willing to do the work themselves. You start to notice that in every group, every relationship, you're quietly assigned the role of the emotional caretaker, the unofficial therapist who's always available, always understanding, always listening. And slowly, without realizing it, your energy starts to drain. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, but the danger is becoming who everyone else needs you to be." You can't pour from an empty cup, and the more attuned you are to others' wounds, the more disciplined you must be in protecting your own soul. This level of intuitive awareness is not weakness, it is spiritual intelligence. But it must be honored with boundaries. You must learn to say no without guilt, to walk away without explanation, and to protect your sacred inner world like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. Your energy is not a community well for others to draw from at will. It is a divine resource, and without practices that ground and replenish you, solitude, meditation, movement, journaling, sacred silence, you risk being consumed by what you've been called to witness. Jung often spoke of the collective unconscious, the deep reservoir of shared human experience and symbols that intuitive individuals can access. That's why your knowledge feels ancient, why you can sense something off, even when logic says everything's fine. You're not just picking up on surface moods. You're tapping into the invisible matrix that connects all souls. This is why protecting your energy is not selfish. It is sacred. You were not born to carry everyone's sorrow. You were born to awaken to your own light and to walk with clarity through the fog of emotional chaos others cannot yet name. Your intuition is a sacred compass, but it was never meant to lead you into constant self-sacrifice. It was meant to lead you home to your truth, your peace, your center. If you resonate with this deep intuitive awareness, comment below. I honor my energy and trust my intuition. And if this message spoke to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. There's more powerful insight coming your way. Sign 5. You crave meaning over social acceptance. You can't fake meaning, and you can't pretend your way through life when your soul is starving for truth. Carl Jung discovered that certain rare individuals suffer deeply when they abandon their inner truth. He called it neurosis, not just anxiety or depression, but a profound spiritual wound caused by living a life that goes against your authentic self. And if you're someone who has ever tried to fit in, to follow the crowd, to silence your questions just to be accepted, you know exactly what that feels like. It's a kind of emptiness that no amount of social approval can fill. You're not driven by the applause of the world. You're driven by something much deeper, a hunger for purpose, truth, and spiritual alignment. That hunger doesn't let you rest in shallow waters. It pushes you to seek depth, meaning, and conversations that actually matter, even when that sets you apart from others. Because in a society obsessed with surface, you crave substance. You've always sensed that there's something more to this life, more to yourself, more to why you're here. And you've noticed how easily people trade their authenticity for comfort, how they hide behind roles, masks, and polite silence. But that never worked for you. Every time you tried to pretend, you felt it in your body, in your energy, in your mind, like your soul was quietly begging you to stop betraying it. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to see what others don't see, feel what others are afraid to feel, and speak what others are too conditioned to say. That's not a flaw. That's your spiritual gift. And yes, it might make you feel like an outsider. But outsiders are the ones who carry the blueprint for inner revolution. People may call you intense or complicated, but what they're really seeing is your refusal to settle for half-truths. You don't chase shallow success because it doesn't feed your spirit. You're not here to impress. You're here to express yourself, your truth, your vision. That's why you're drawn to solitude, to depth, to the uncomfortable beauty of growth. You're here not just to live, but to awaken. And with that awakening comes a kind of loneliness that few talk about. But it's in that sacred space of solitude that your clarity sharpens. It's where your soul whispers, "This is who you are. don't forget. Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." And you? You're awake. That's why small talk drains you and superficial relationships bore you. You crave something real. You crave something spiritual. So every time you felt like you don't belong, every time you've questioned why you see life so differently, understand this. Your perception isn't broken. It's expanded. Your emotions aren't weaknesses. They're messengers. Your search for meaning isn't a detour. It's your soul's true direction. You weren't made to follow the map. You were made to draw your own. Keep choosing your truth over their approval. Keep choosing your path, even when it's not popular. Because for people like you, authenticity isn't a luxury, it's survival. And in that brave, beautiful alignment with your spirit, you're not just living, you're becoming. Did this message resonate with your search for truth? If so, comment below. I choose purpose over approval to affirm your path, and let's keep exploring what it means to live authentically. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of this journey. Sign 6. You've outgrown people and environments that once fit. You've changed, and because of that, everything around you feels different. The people who once felt like home no longer understand you, and the environments that used to nurture you now feel suffocating. Carl Jung called this transformation a psychological death and rebirth, an inner evolution that demands the old version of you be laid to rest so the truest version of your soul can finally rise. Growth brings grief, not because something went wrong, but because you've outgrown everything that was only meant to serve the man you used to be. You can't go back, even if you tried. And as painful as that might feel, it's also sacred. You've stepped into a space where the illusions of belonging no longer hold power. The friendships that relied on your silence begin to fade. The conversations that once kept your attention now feel hollow. You begin to see that it wasn't them that changed, it was you. The old soul within you finally stopped shrinking to fit what was never built for your expansion. This kind of growth doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It moves in quietly, with a deep inner knowing that your path is diverging. It doesn't need explanation, only acceptance. And in that acceptance, you find yourself walking through a season of isolation that isn't meant to harm you, but to refine you. Loneliness becomes the furnace where your authenticity is forged. Jung believed that such souls who wake up to their truth and refuse to go back to sleep are rare because they choose resonance over familiarity, purpose over performance, and truth over comfort. You stop searching for people who remind you of your past and start attracting those who reflect your future. But this doesn't happen instantly. There is a space in between where everything feels uncertain, where you grieve not only who you lost, but who you used to be. That grief is real. You mourn the version of yourself who tolerated less, stayed quiet to keep the peace, and wore masks to be accepted. But now your soul demands freedom, and freedom always comes with a cost. The cost is the distance that forms when you stop entertaining what drains you. It's the silence that falls when you no longer perform for validation. It's the stillness you sit in when the phone doesn't ring like it used to. And yet, that stillness becomes sacred. That space becomes your sanctuary. And from there, something shifts. You begin to meet people who speak the language of your soul. You find environments that support your expansion. You feel peace that doesn't require approval. And you finally understand that outgrowing is not rejection. It's realignment. It's the soul remembering its original design. So if everything familiar has begun to fall away, take heart. Your evolution is not a crisis. It's a calling. And the man you're becoming is far too rare to be understood by the world you've already outgrown. If this message speaks to where you are right now, say this with faith. I release the old with love and welcome the new with trust. I'm ready for the next chapter of my growth. Sign 7. You offer profound presence in a distracted world. In a world that's constantly performing, chasing, and escaping itself, your presence doesn't just enter a room, it shifts it. Carl Jung called this rare capacity psychological holding space, the profound ability to sit with another person's raw truth without flinching, judging, or interrupting. It's not about saying the right thing. It's about being the quiet force that allows another soul to feel seen in their entirety. And that is precisely why people gravitate toward you. They sense something in you that most cannot offer. Safety without condition, stillness without pressure, love without performance. But here's the hidden cost. This kind of soulful witnessing, when done without boundaries, can become a silent sacrifice. Jung warned of what he called helper syndrome, the unconscious pattern where the one who heals ends up drained, depleted, and invisible. You give so deeply that you slowly erase yourself in the process. You become everyone's grounding center, yet lose your own footing. Your compassion turns into a doorway where others walk in freely, leaving muddy footprints on your energy, unaware that they've taken something you cannot easily replace. And still, you stay. Because your soul was built for depth. But even depth has limits. Jung reminded us that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that includes knowing when your gift is being misused. Not everyone deserves your presence. Your energy is not charity. It is sacred currency. Setting boundaries does not mean closing your heart. It means guarding your essence so that it doesn't bleed out into hands that only take. Boundaries are not barriers. They are blessings. They are not rejections. They are reminders that your presence is earned, not owed. Loving wisely is the next evolution of loving deeply. So you must begin to discern who genuinely honors your light and who simply seeks its warmth without ever carrying fire of their own. The souls who are meant for you will never require your exhaustion as proof of your care. True connection does not drain, it energizes. You are not meant to be the background in everyone else's healing. You are meant to be whole, to be still, to be radiant, to be respected. Don't forget to subscribe for more wisdom on protecting your energy, setting soulful boundaries, and offering your presence with purpose, not depletion. Your gift is rare. Let's learn to honor it together. Sign 8. You sense a larger purpose. You can't yet define. You've always felt a quiet pull towards something greater, something you couldn't quite define but could never shake. It wasn't ambition in the traditional sense. It was something far more spiritual, like a whisper from deep within, urging you to rise beyond the surface of life. Carl Jung called this phenomenon the archetypal calling, a deep psychological and spiritual urge that moves your soul toward transformation. It's not just a feeling, It's your inner compass, guiding you toward truth, authenticity, and your highest self. When you ignore this calling, life starts to feel flat, even suffocating. You might feel a heavy fog of anxiety, a dull sadness, or an aching sense of meaninglessness. That's not weakness. It's your psyche rebelling against a life misaligned with your deeper purpose. Jung believed that people like you are not ordinary. You bridge rare vessels through which unconscious wisdom is made visible to the world. You don't just live a life. You embody an awakening. And whether you know it or not, your very presence sparks something in others. You're not here to fit in. You're here to tune in, to rise, and to evolve. That's why ordinary goals never satisfy you. You don't crave shallow success. You crave meaning. You crave the sacred. You long to serve something invisible, yet powerful. Something that calls your soul instead of feeding your ego. And even when you don't have the full picture, you feel the pull anyway. That is spiritual intelligence at work. It knows what your conscious mind has yet to catch up to. This journey may isolate you at times, but it also strengthens you. It breaks you open to a deeper way of seeing and being. As you walk this rare path, your pain becomes wisdom, your questions become guidance, and your life becomes a living prayer for the evolution of consciousness itself. In a world that tells you to chase certainty and comfort, you choose depth and discovery. That is your gift, and it's what sets you apart. The spiritual lesson is this: your longing for something greater isn't a flaw or a phase. It's your soul remembering its assignment. You are not lost. You are being led. And the more you trust that invisible thread, the more you become what you were always meant to be. To affirm your connection to this deeper calling, declare your alignment with it. Comment below, "I am a bridge of awakening," to honor your purpose and inspire others to step into their own unseen destiny. Thank you for joining us today on Spiritual Wisdom. If you resonated with any of these signs or saw parts of yourself reflected in this rare personality, know that you are not alone. Your uniqueness is a gift to the world. Embrace it fully. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more thought-provoking insights. And be sure to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming videos on Carl Jung, spiritual growth, and the deeper truths of the soul. Until next time, stay aligned and keep shining.